address energy poverty. We must address energy poverty. The worst thing that happens in Africa is what I call, sometimes you want to respond to some of these things because people say things they do not know. I will talk to them. And half of the time we're encircled because Africans, people speak on behalf of them. And I think this is not different. It is this group who speaks on behalf of Africans. And Africans are encircled, they must be conscious of their ideas. We don't think we should allow that. This is what the delegates of this Indaba must be preoccupied with, which ought to be a measure of whether we are succeeding in our deliberation. Differences about space, scale, and how to balance the transition will always exist. However, as African leaders, we are duty-bound to act with determination to resolve the intricate problem that beset our continent without encirclement pressure to please others first. We must be pragmatic in our approach to low-emission future and eradication of energy poverty. Can I advise you, leave them because you are giving them the attention they are looking for. Leave them. They are looking for attention. Now you are giving them attention. Can I suggest, Budi? Hello. Budi, leave them. Don't give them the attention they look. They are looking for attention. Come, stand here. Stand here. Come here. So, energy poverty is one such a dilemma that we must collectively resolve as it impedes Africa's economic growth, resulting in poverty and inequality. This includes lack of access to electricity, unaffordability of energy, and in our case, electricity interruptions, load shedding. Those are the issues that we must be looking at. Another challenge that not only based on our continent, but the world, is the climate change that adversely impacts on the health and well-being of the people. We're very alive to these challenges. Hence, in our resolve to address energy poverty, we're equally sensitive to the needs of society and long-term impact of the environment. Now, let me make this point. The Gwede who blocks renewables has done few things. We've released bid window 5, we've released bid window 6, we're going to release bid window 7 now. We've removed any ceiling on embedded generation. It used to be 1 megawatt, we increased it to 100 megawatts, you don't know that. And we moved from 100 megawatts, they said we must move to 1,000 megawatts. We said no, remove the ceiling, we've done. So embedded generation is totally deregulated. And that is blocking renewables because renewables think that is the only thing that came from heaven to save us. And I can tell you that it's not going to save us because it has limitations. It doesn't have base load. It depends on partnering with other technologies to provide sustainable and secure energy supply and security. So if we understand that, we'll know that actually coal is going to be with us for a long time. And we have a responsibility to invest on coal technology that makes it cleaner. And we reduce the emissions, but use what we're endowed with in the country, and that is called coal. Now, it's coal. Now, we're endowed with that. We've got it. Coal corruption is fine. Corruption is everywhere, including in renewables. I can tell you that. It's including in renewables. Corruption is individuals who are creative, who steal. You still, everywhere you work, it's not about coal. Now, what we should remember is that about 600 million Africans lack access to electricity, which explains why Africa remains underdeveloped. Africa is underdeveloped, but it is a rich continent. We have a responsibility to deal with that issue. We must therefore work together and mobilize financial support to solve Africa energy challenges, which include lack of infrastructure. We must expand our grid capacity to enable additional connection and transmission. This will enable Africa to generate enough electricity to power its economies, including industrialization, manufacturing, and processing of its natural resources. So we're encouraging you to avoid the polarized debate on energy. Appreciate the fact that energy is going to be sustainable as a catalyst. If we appreciate that various technologies of energy must coexist and complement one another. If we work for that, we're going to succeed. But if we think that we must kill other technology and have one technology, we are going to pay the price. I'm sure many of you, as people in the space, you are following the developments. If you go to Germany today, they are reopening coal-generating power stations because Russia has closed its gas, and therefore they must go back to coal to get base load. Actually, after 30 years of no coal mining, UK has opened a coal mine after 30 years. We follow that. Today we say coal is corruption, coal is equal to corruption. China is currently building 43 coal-generating power stations as we talk here today. Japan is building 23 coal power stations as we sit here today. Here we say we must call them quicker. And I know that people who say that may not have been in the coal belt. The coal belt covers 10 cities in Mpumalanga. I'm not talking of the others in the periphery. I'm talking of Belfast, Carolina, Emelo, Henrina, Middleburg, Emalahleni, Uwagis, Kriel, Leslie, and Telmas. That is one continuous coal belt. And if we talk of transitioning, if it is just, justice must not just be done, it must be seen to be done. Number two, it must talk to people. People who are in that area are not numbers. They are human beings. They have life. They support families, and they actually depend on coal now for survival. And that talk to communities. If you want to have ghost towns and therefore breathe fresh air in darkness, it's up to us. If you take, for example, today, our load shedding, we have looked into it as a department. Main cause of load shedding is not renewables, is not shortage thereof, is the suboptimal operation of coal-generating power stations. And ESCOM must actually accelerate the optimal operation of those. 6 of our power stations give us electricity availability factor of less than 50%. And that is where the source of load shedding is. And we must address it as this community. This community is important to society. This community is important to the economy. And we must just take that responsibility head on and appreciate it. Now, it is pleasing that Africa is uniting on the principle of energy transition, that it must be people-centered, take into consideration the socio-economic condition of communities that will be affected, and take into consideration Africa's developmental needs. Such a consensus found an expression at the conference of the parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP26 and 27. Resulting in a resolution that talks about phase down on unabated coal power rather than view of the lobbyists who call for the abrupt phase out of coal use. Recent developments in Europe, China, and US and India have vindicated the pragmatic position Africa states have taken. Going to COP28, Africa's position must continue to be pragmatic as we move from high emission to low emissions, not move from coal to renewables. We move from high carbon emission to low carbon emission, and that is what we should be doing. Now, the African continent is well positioned to meaningfully benefit from just energy transition era due to endowment with mineral deposits that are suitable for green energy production. And many of the people who demonstrate here think that we must not mine because we're tampering with environment. But those minerals are important for movement from high carbon emission to low carbon emission. And we must be allowed to mine rare earth minerals, we must be allowed to mine platinum, we must be allowed to mine vanadium, we must be allowed to mine lithium, and many others. Now, according to the National Energy Agency, Africa accounts for over 40% of global reserve of cobalt, manganese, and platinum, key minerals for battery and hydrogen technologies. South Africa, DRC, and Mozambique have a significant share of production today, but many other countries may hold undiscovered deposits. We believe that it is in the interest of Africa that a rigorous mineral exploration program is implemented to uncover these unknown deposits in many other countries of our continent. For its part, South Africa continues to mobilize investments in exploration, informed by the understanding that it is the lifeblood of mining, which has been backbone of our economy over the last 150 years. Unless we explore, there can be no beneficiating from mineral reserve to our continent that our continent is endowed with. Today, South Africa and Zimbabwe account for the largest production of known global platinum groups. Together, we mine more than 70 of that. Now, there is no doubt that if African leaders work together, we'll achieve a great deal for the continent in the hydrogen revolution. The IEA further focused that Africa has the potential to produce 5,000 megawatts of hydrogen per year at less than $2 per kilogram, equivalent to global total energy supply today. There can be no ambiguity regarding the importance of African continent to pursue diversified energy sources and systems to ensure security of energy supply whilst transitioning to low carbon economy. However, Africa must not succumb to encirclement by developed economies which continue to put pressure on our continent to move away from all forms of fossil fuels at a pace and scale determined by them. That movement from fossil fuels must not be determined by powerful economies. We must determine that ourselves as the continent. We are a continent, we are the least developed continent. We have a responsibility to develop it and take leadership. We are rich but poor, and we cannot allow that to continue. What we can afford to lose, what we cannot afford to lose sight of is that just in a transition discourse is a fact that Africa is the least polluter compared to developed continents. So we can have demonstrations, but we're the least polluter compared to other regions of the world. Even though we are the most impacted today by the cumulative emissions generated by the industrialized others. Africa is endowed with resources such as coal, oil, and gas, which are needed for baseload energy to power our industrialization. Our continent deserves the opportunity to develop its own oil and gas infrastructure, storage, refineries, and distribution to cushion our people against turbulence of global markets and thereby secure its continental energy needs. Unlike others, Africa must invest in the research of green technologies such as carbon capture, use and storage to minimize the impact of planet. It is incumbent on all of us to gather, gathered at this Indaba, to align technological innovation with the type of energy sources we can produce. Africa must take full custodianship of the energy and development strategy and be certain of its outcome. It is against this background that financing Africa's just energy transition must receive special concession with more focus on developmental agents. I trust that this conference will bear the kind of results that will move us from the debate to practical action. Let us work together to find common solutions to our shared challenges. I must, in conclusion, remind ourselves that the European Union take a resolution on Uganda, that Uganda must not develop its own oil deposits. But it's not Uganda, it's Europe that takes that resolution and impose that on Uganda. It's the same resolution here that we must not touch coal. It's not our resolution, it's a resolution of developed economies. Agents are here to tell us that, and we must resist it with everything we have. That we are a continent, we have a responsibility, we must develop our continent to the best of our ability. If we want to do away with load shedding, one, we must improve the electricity availability factor, power station by power station. Two, we must accelerate acquisition of emergency energy. Three, we must import energy from neighboring countries as we're interconnected, and we must focus on scales. That is what we should be focusing on, not on walking away from coal. Coal is going to be with us for a very long time, so those who see it as corruption or a road to whatever, they are going to be disappointed for many, many years because coal is going to outlive many of us. Thank you very much.